and welcome to my YouTube channel. I just want to say a big thank you to you guys. We've hit 1,000 subscribers, so yay! I really couldn't have gotten this far without you guys, so thank you so much. In today's video, I'm going to be showing you how to make a peplum dress. Yeah, a peplum dress with bell sleeves. But before we go into that, I want to show you this kimono style shift dress that I made. It is really very simple. I'm going to link it up at the end of this video. As you can see, there is no sleeves attached, but it looks like it has sleeves. Yeah, so I'm going to link it up at the end of this video. Don't forget to watch that. So now, for the main purpose of this video, like I said earlier, I'm going to be showing you how I made a peplum dress with bell sleeves. Now, first of all, let me just describe how a peplum dress really looks like. It's like a normal basic dress, pencil dress, with sort of like a peplum at the knee area, or above that, or below the knee. Then for the sleeve, the bell sleeves, you have your basic sleeve pattern, and then sort of like a peplum at the elbow area or anywhere around that. The reason why it's called the bell sleeves is because it looks like a bell. It has a straight part and then sort of like a how do I put it, a flare at the bottom. So that's the reason it's called a bell sleeve. So let's get into the video.
I have folded my fabric in two, so I'm going to mark my shoulder measurements plus ½ inch allowance, and then after that I mark the depth of my arm sky. For this bust measurement, I'll be using 9 inches for the arm sky depth. The bust measurement is 38 inches, and yeah, so mine is 34 inches and I use 8 inches for my arm sky depth. So I mark the bust measurement and then I add the necessary allowance that is determined by you, basically, however allowance you want to add. After that, I'm going to mark my under bust measurements. All vertical measurements, ½ inch should be added to it. And then for my under bust and natural waistline, I always add an extra 1 inch allowance for that. Very important. And then after I mark my natural waistline, that allowance and sewing allowance inclusive, I'm going to join the points and then mark my hip measurements. My hip measurements, there's no allowance, there's no data allowance, so I just add the sewing allowance. Now all round measurements should be divided by 4. Then the bottom of the dress, I add 1 inch for joining at both top and bottom, and then I use the measurement from hip line minus 1.5 for the horizontal measurement, so it will form a pencil shape, and I join the points. So I sort of made a mistake in the allowance. I just needed to adjust that, so that's why we have that. And then I'll be cutting along that corrected line. So next, arm sky curve of 2 inches for this bust measurement. And then I use my French cuff to curve it out. So for the neckline, I divide the shoulder measurement into 2. I'm using a neck depth of 6 inches and neck width of 4 inches. So I join the points to form like a rectangle, and then I do 2 inches for the curve, and then I curve it out. You can also decide to go lower if you want, or just leave it like that. My shoulder slant of ½ inch. That is important because your shoulder is slanted. And then I cut out my fabric. This is the front piece of the pencil dress I'll be making. So I cut out my pattern, my fabric. So I'm going to use this to cut out the back as well. So I leave allowance of 1.5 inches, and I've constructed my dart. If you don't know how to construct darts, I'm going to link it up. So right now I want the back of the neck portion of the back piece to be lower than the front, so I'm going to mark 1 inch off, and then I curve it out and cut it. So the next thing I'm going to do is to sew my dart, is to stitch it, and I start from the apex all the way to the center of the dart, and all the way to the center of the dart, and then down to the second apex. So it's very simple. I just use the markings as a guide to sewing it, and when I get to the center I pivot my fabric around the needle and then sew all the way down. So I'm going to sew the other dart as well. I'm done with my darts, and this is it right here. So the next thing I do is place the back piece on the front piece and I pin it together, and then I sew my shoulders, the shoulders of the front piece and the back piece together. Now after that, I have adjusted the dress to fit the measurement of this person. I've adjusted the bust, the under bust, the natural waistline and the hip, and I'm going to sew along the markings that I have made. And once I get to the hip area, I'm just going to sew straight down. So yeah, right here I am hemming my neckline. I use the rolled hem method because of the kind of fabric I'm using. So sometimes you may just want to use bias, but I decided to roll the hem and sew, and this is how it looks. Next is attachment of zip, and I've changed my normal presser foot to a zipper foot for easy sewing of my zip. And I'm using a 1.5 inch sewing allowance, which I gave to attach my zip, and then I sew all the way just an inch from the bottom of the zip. And here I did the same to the other side, and that's it. This is not an invisible zip. So from here, so from where I stopped all the way down with 1.5 inch sewing allowance as well. So at some point I had to change to a normal presser foot to sew all the way down. So after that, yeah, this is the pencil dress. I'll be attaching a peplum to the bottom, so I'm just going to measure the bottom of this, and I have about 20 inches. You need to make sure it is very accurate, as accurate as possible. And then I'm going to get my other piece of fabric. I folded it into 2, and I'm going to fold it again. I just need to make sure it's at the exact length that I want, so I don't waste fabric. So I have 19 by 19 inches. Since I've divided into 4, I actually want to have 10 on each plane of fabric. I'll be marking 8 inches all the way around. And then when I measured, I figured out that 8 inches was too much because I got more than 10 inches. So I'm going to go with 6 inches now. I marked 6 inches all the way around. And then when I measured, I had 10. I am marking 9 inches for the length of my peplum. So 8 inches for the length, and then the 1 inch, half inch joining at the top, and half inch for the bottom. And then I'm going to cut it out right now. So that's it. So the length of my peplum at the top, the smaller part all the way, is 40 inches, and I'm going to place that inside the fabric. with right sides touching, and then I'm going to sew all the way around. This fabric is a very stretchy fabric, so I started to mark the midpoint in front and start sewing from there all the way to the back. That means all the way to the zipper panel side, and then I move back to that center front marking, start sewing from there again all the way to the zipper panel. This is such that if there is any excesses, you can use it to form a pleat, a kissing pleat at the back, but I didn't have any excesses, so it was a pretty smooth one. And then I do a back stitch to seal my stitches. So this is it right here. I've done my peplum. So what I'm going to do next is to also use the rolled hem method to stitch the bottom of the peplum, or the bottom of the flare. Peplum is derived from flare, so I stitch all the way around. Yeah, basically it's as simple as that. So this is how it looks. It's pretty neat. So I'm just going to go ahead and work on the sleeves. I have drafted my sleeve head. If you don't know how to draft a sleeve, I'm going to link that up. I notch the center of my sleeve. So first off, I will be marking 1 inches, because what I do is make sure that the sleeve head matches the length of the arm sky. I measure my sleeve head and make sure it matches the length of my arm sky, and then I sew the allowance needed. And once I'm done with that, I'm going to fit my sleeve in the arm sky area with right sides touching the fabric. Remember, I have notched the head of my sleeve, so I'm going to place the notched side underneath my shoulder joining with right sides touching, and then I'm going to start sewing from that shoulder joining all the way to the joining at the bottom of the armhole area. I go back to my shoulder joining again at the other side, and then do the same thing, sew all the way down to the joining at the bottom of the armhole area. It's very, very simple. And then once I'm done with that, yeah, this is how it looks. I'm going to be cutting another peplum for the sleeve, the bottom of the sleeve, the same method I used to cut for the bottom of the pencil dress. I measure the length of my sleeve, make sure it's as accurate as possible. I have 6 inches, so I'm going to go ahead and fold my fabric into 4. Now I also had an issue getting the first measurement at the top. So my fabric is folded into 4, so I'm supposed to get 6 inches. That's times 2, that's 12. So I mark I mark 2 inches first. I curve it out thinking I will get 3 inches, but I got way more than that, so I went ahead with 1.5 inch. And I got 3 inches. So 3 inches by 4, that is 12 inches. Remember, we measured 6 inches, and by 2 is 12 inch. So the length of the peplum, I'm marking it right now, it's supposed to be 7 inches, so I'm marking 8, so 1 inch for joining at the top and bottom, and then I join those points and then cut it out. And basically I attach it to the sleeve the same way I attach the peplum for the pencil dress. It's the same method that I used. Like I said, this is a very simple project to actually embark on. So yeah, I'm just going to measure it now and show you. It's about 6 inches, the same length we measured. Remember, the sleeve is folded in two and this is folded in two as well. I have opened it up and we have about 6 inches, so we are good to go. I have duplicated it and it's time for joining, and I do the same process like I did earlier before. Right sides touching, so I use the peplum to sort of like encase the sleeve, making sure the right sides are touching, and then I sew all the way around. And once I'm done sewing all the way around, I hem the bottom of the flare using the rolled hem method as well, and then that's it. You just need to make sure you're stitching properly. And because this is a stretchy fabric, during my hemming process I had to stretch out the fabric so the thread doesn't break in between. This is sort of like a scuba material, yeah. And then I've given it a gentle press around the seam area, and this is how the dress looks. Looks really nice, right? So thank you for watching, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel. Bye guys, and see you in my next video.